Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cerberus. I am Peyman Askari. We are airing in the new year, 2026. This is Saturday, January 3rd, and I am joined by my two co hosts, Mr. Timothy Knight and André Meloche. Timothy, let's go to you first. Happy New Year, sir. How are you?
Happy New Year to you. I had all four of my children and my granddaughter and my mother over at Christmas time and had a really great time. Now we're into 2026 and just want to wish everybody a quiet, boring, uneventful 2026 with no unexpected events and no adventures of any kind.
Fair enough. Mr. Meloche, Happy New Year's to you. How was your New Year's?
My New Year was quite quiet, and I wish we would have done the show yesterday. First of all, Happy New Year's to our viewer, because the wishes of Tim would have been more credible considering what happened this morning. I want to wish to everybody, to all the viewers, peace and love. And maybe we already have a first candidate for the Nobel Peace Prize of 2026 will be Donald J. Trump, I suppose. So that's it. Show is over. No, so it's a joke. I'm very happy to be back with both of you.
Well, hopefully we won't sidetrack into Venezuela. Our topic of conversation today is UNDRIP, but I don't know if we can resist because Venezuela is the hot topic. Mr. Knight, Timothy is going to be leading the presentation today. We're going to be going over UNDRIP, the United Nations Declaration of Rights of Indigenous Persons. Before we do that, Squirrel Nuts, thank you very much for watching and reposting the stream. JT, thank you for tuning in and reposting. If everybody else could repost the stream, we'd appreciate it. If you're watching on YouTube, Rumble, please also consider liking and subscribing as well. Tim,
Yeah.
I'm going to hand it over to you, and I'll bring up your slides, and you tell me, you lead the show. Go ahead.
Yep. So in preparation for today's show, I put together a 32 or 33 page slideshow that I'll convert into a document and throw up on my Substack later on. For now, if you just want to go to page 3, which is a quick definition of fee simple. So the most complete form of land ownership, effectively, you own it, you control it, you decide what to do on it. It is yours. And this is what is being contested and what Canadian private property homeowners are most concerned about. So as was seen in that interview with the one homeowner in Richmond during the municipal town hall that was going on, his question was, I came here to get answers. I'm a 25-year homeowner. I've been paying taxes. I've been paying my mortgage. I've been paying property taxes. I've been paying all these fees to make sure that this is mine and that I own it. And now I'm being told maybe I don't. Short answer, the TLDR of a 32-page presentation is private property owners do indeed continue to own their property outright. ... for now. And that's the problem. So there's 18 months dictated by the BC Crown, sorry, not BC Crown, BC courts telling the government, you've got 18 months to sit down and negotiate with the Aboriginal claimants and determine exactly how we're going to handle the various zones of land on the claimant's in the claimant zone. So that means the Crown is moving into a position where it has to determine how it's going to compensate the Cowichan tribes, for example. Are they going to compensate by giving them the land, which may be the case for Crown-owned land, may even be the case for municipal-owned land? And in the case of private ownership, are they going to give the Aboriginal claimants the equivalent value for private property that is currently owned? And the deal with that is basically, it's like if you're a movie theater, or sorry, a movie production company, you're buying the rights to produce a book. Similar concept. So will the government go to the Aboriginal claimants who are claiming ownership of, or first right of private property in Canada. And the government has to first agree with the Crown, yes, you have first right. And then they have to, the Crown and the Aboriginal claimants need to determine, are they willing to accept a payout for the value of that land so that the actual current private property owner continues to retain fee simple. So it's not really about fee simple claims versus Aboriginal title or Indigenous title or et cetera. It's not about these titles, the definitions. The court has already said they have a claim to the land. And then they told the court, you now have to share this. You have to share your right to the land. And you can't be both of you because the private property owner cannot have that burden. So once again, we have entities at the top of an inverted pyramid deciding what to do with the value and the property of the owners and the commoner at the bottom of the pyramid, who literally have no say in the matter. So if you go to page 6. So page 6 is a definition of positive law. So what this basically means is this determination that the Cowichan tribe in particular, or in this case, has legal claim to the land, now becomes a matter of man-made law, meaning the Cowichan peoples have equal precedential claim to ownership of the land. And this will affect every claim in the province, and it will affect every province. Yep.
What is positive law? Sorry.
So positive law is, I have definitions in the earlier pages, but effectively you're looking at positive law means now it is not a matter of natural law where you acknowledge that gravity works, so you accommodate it, or crown law, which is, 1,000 years old. So it's a common law thing. It's positive law means now we're accepting that this is written law. So regarding land claims and property ownership, anything regarding that now must also include potential Aboriginal claim. And that's law, right? So that's where that's going.
Tim, I have a question. Andre, I'm sorry, if you want to jump in, you can jump in as well. So you have UNDRIP, which is this United Nations General Assembly resolution it's a steaming pile of poo, but our governments have decided to adopt it provincially and federally. And then you have this Cowichan land ruling. Does the Cowichan land ruling just happen to move along and get to the same trajectory as UNDRIP, or is it citing UNDRIP?
UNDRIP underpins this case. So the Crown, sorry, I keep saying Crown. The court acknowledges the precedent-setting application of the UN in Canadian law. So when Canada signed on to UNDRIP, it said we will accept other interpretations. And then the Crown, sorry, I keep saying Crown, the court must now include those other interpretations, which until now were not written into the code. And now this Cowichan ruling is written into code. And so UNDRIP gets to sit up here as a conceptual idea. And then it's up to the country and then the state or the province to interpret and apply it. And in doing this, it has now become another body of law. So you're likely to see a subset of all common and criminal law in Canada, business law, etc., contract law, that now must include the Aboriginal voice.
Thank you, Tim. Andre, do you want to say something? Or
yes, of course. Tim, you mentioned UNDRIP, U and United Nations. I have my first question toward what you were referring to, the fee simple. That implies absolute right. Does that include drilling? Discovering natural resource on your land, and you say to the government, you know what? I'm sovereign on my land. and I've discovered a lot of oil or gas, and I will exploit them. Does that include the underground?
In Canada, it's messy because you could have a municipality make a claim, easement and other claims such as that, where they say, it's you own what's on at the surface of the land or down to a particular depth, like you're drilling a 400-foot well or something like that. And they can say, oftentimes it matters if a government in cahoots with a corporation, because they're the ones who end up paying for it, says, "Oh, look, we found a gold vein on your property, and we'd like to exploit that." But during their assay, they've determined that's not really worth our effort to do this, because we'd have to offer to buy it off you or get you incorporated and find some way to compensate you. So they might just walk away because it's just not worth the effort. But if they decide it's worth the effort and you don't take their initial lowball effort, then they just drag you to court and take it from you. That's Canada.
Okay, yeah, that's very important. What this distinction, because I would say, for example, you drill and you discover gold, and we have this concept of claim. The government or the crown will give companies, gold and mining companies, they have claim on a certain territory, and they say, if I find, I'm exploration mode, and I find gold, or I find, rare mineral earth, or I find gas, I will be able to exploit. We see this in the north part of Canada, including Quebec and Alberta. My question is, you United Nations, it's like, okay, I'm God, and I decide for everybody. Wait a second, we don't live in democracy here. I have nothing to talk about. I have nothing to say about what I've done. 10 years ago, I drilled a well here. I had a well drilled, 400-foot well. Your example is very interesting.
Yeah.
I found water to supply my house. I paid for it, and now somebody would arrive and would say, "We will pay the value of your land, but with your tax money, because
That's
it's
right.
the government that will pay. So I pay for my own expropriation." Is that a good interpretation?
No, that's exactly what it is. It's exactly
So
what
people,
it is. That's for example, someone says, "Well, okay, so the Cowichan, won the right to lay claim, right? So you won the right to lay claim." That's what this court case effectively
yes.
does, right? So they're saying, they argue, we have a right to lay claim. UNDRIP gives it to us, but we also have other preceding, precedential Canadian law. So the judge then, looks at this and goes, that's correct. So now we have to be careful how we define these things, right? Issues with burdening, a cloud on title, right? So the things that are more practical, because as we've seen very recently, lenders and insurers are staying away from BC investments, because it has the plague, because we don't know how to navigate if there are two claimants in addition to, right? Right. So the burdening is where you're a property owner, and that property is burdened by the municipal zoning, municipal bylaws, etc. What are your obligations to, and burdened by crown, right? By the crown, the ownership of that land. But now you're introducing a second major burden, right? That is equal to the crown in their right. Equal. And that's what they keep saying. Yes, the Aboriginal claim, according to the court, has been given equal right to claim. Right. So then the crown is being invited, and the court case continues to use the word crown. It doesn't want to say Canada. It's trying to offload responsibility, right? So that the courts, the system itself, is not held to some degree of misinterpretation, where you could say the government of Canada gives a mandate to the courts and the justice system and says, under no circumstances do you permit such a thing to happen. And to avoid that, the court system says the crown is now in a position where it is required to negotiate in good faith with the other equal footing claimant, which is Aboriginal voice, the Aboriginal claim. And so that they are negotiating. The crown is supposed to basically say, how much is this land worth to you? And then pay it. So that the owner right? The actual property owner is relieved of being does not have that cloud on title, right? That uncertainty, because in that situation, normal situations, if I have a lien on my property, I as the owner am responsible to clear the lien, right? So that's the cloud on title issue where it's cloudy. So a seller who has a lien has to clear the lien before he can successfully sell to a buyer, right? So the same situation now is you have two potential buyers. Canada owns the land outright, right? By Crown Corporation, owns it outright and has sold it, right? Basically rented really to the Canadian homeowner or Canadian property owner. But the Aboriginal claim says we are equal to Crown in this, and we get to make a decision. So the Crown has a responsibility to protect the property owner. So it is preparing to buy out, like I said, with the movie, buying the movie rights from it, right? To buy out. And in so doing, Aboriginal claim or the right will not have claim because they will have sold their right. It's an Esau and Jacob thing, really.
Well,
right?
well,
They
you're
sold their
referring
birthright.
you're referring to the right.
Mhm.
Let's say I'm an owner. I don't want to sell.
Yeah.
I don't want to
Okay,
sell.
so
Wait. I don't want to sell, and I will defend my property. I will defend it. Might makes right. I will defend my property. Maybe I will not win, but I will try.
yeah. But the Crown now has an obligation to negotiate with Aboriginal claimants in good faith to offer to pay off the equivalent value of my property so that
Yes.
I am not right, so that I may retain ownership of my property.
Yeah, paying again with my tax money. I
That's
disagree
correct.
totally with this, and I will
And
never
that's
comply with this. I
yeah,
will
and
never.
that's
So that it refers to United Nations, and it is funny that we I will not drill down or go in the rabbit hole of Venezuela, but today it was quite funny to see what happened. Tomorrow, what will happen? I don't want to sell. Simple. They can
right.
they can claim whatever they want. If I have the power to defend my land, I will not sell it.
Andre,
I will not even
And
Andre,
negotiate.
I
yes,
think what Tim is trying to say is it's not your land. You don't own anything. You're
but
renting
that's
it from
but
a
I but
Payment.
maybe my point, I'm not expressing the point properly. The Crown has a legal obligation to make sure that you, a private property owner, retain fee simple. Retain it. That's their obligation. The court has told the Crown you have to go to the Aboriginal voices, the Aboriginal people, the claimants, and negotiate a price with which to pay them off. Right. So they're buying their claim to your land. So it's a good thing. It's just we end up paying for it no matter what, right? But it's still a good thing because otherwise you'll have agents for Aboriginal claimants physically coming to your door and telling you to get the fuck out.
Well, they can try.
But what I'm
Doesn't
saying
mean that they
is,
will succeed.
but what I'm saying is the judge has said you cannot. We are going to prevent that from happening. So even though nobody's asked us for our opinion, nobody has asked the homeowners across Canada what do you think about this. Nobody has informed homeowners in Canada. You know, if we find enough gold underneath you, we are going to kick you off your property, and you'll just have
Or
to
they,
take it. Right. So nobody's telling the commoner that the commoner's not involved in it. However, the court has said, and in my view, rightly so, you, the Crown, have an obligation to defend your property owners by offering to compensate, and the word compensate is what they're using, but really it's paying them off. You're buying their right to the first right of refusal, right? You're buying their first right of refusal.
Andre, let me give you an analogy. You watched the show Downton Abbey. It's a good show. Everybody should watch it. You have a landlord and you have peasants on the land, and then there's another landlord that comes in, a lord, sorry, and the lord says, "Oh, this is actually my land." So the original lord is going to the peasant and saying, "All right, give me some of your harvest, give me some of your wheat. We'll give it to this lord, and he'll go away." But nobody, the peasant doesn't own the land. It's you got these two people that are feuding, and the people that apparently own the land, the property owners, they don't own anything. They're nobodies.
Well, you refer to Downton Abbey in 1912, 1914, when the Titanic went down and the creation of the Federal Reserve. Yeah, I can go back to the 17th century. The crown is bankrupt since the 17th century and doesn't hold nothing. It's the high finance that supplies the money to the crown. So, and it is based on tax. I have maybe one comment about the let's say 1789 French Revolution and the Universal Declaration of the Right of Man and of Citizen. The first amendment is men are born free and equal in respect of their rights. So me, it's not very complicated. I don't want a tribe, native or whatever, to have rights and where I would have privilege. I will never accept that. It's either we're all equal in rights, doesn't mean communism. It's we're all equal in rights. And let's say tomorrow they buy back my land, which I have an official document. It's quite funny because I have a 200-year-old house and I have all the documents since 200 years. I challenge any native people in Quebec that would come on my land and show me their title. I have all the documents. It's not long, 200 years. So my real question is, where do I go if I sell my land?
Yeah.
Where do I live? If the native people say that they own all the land, will I be put in exile?
You can go to Venezuela.
No. So let's I want to keep moving because we only got through like fee simple. What you're mentioning is that this is the proof. This is my title. This is the historical record of my title. Is under what's called the Torrens system. That's on page 15, please. 15? Yeah. So the Torrens system is exactly what you're referring to, right? So the state guarantees title and simplifying transfers. You can simplify transfers because there's a paper trail and it's in a land registry, and it eliminates historical titles, long, disgusting, horrible title searches. Next page, 16. So then, and these are the principles. And what I mentioned, so you have a register and you don't need to look behind it because the documentation is simple and clean and straightforward. And then providing security, indefeasibility, and notice that this system exists in Canada and Australia. So what we are experiencing here in Canada, if it has not already happened, it will happen also in Australia. Okay. So this is what you said. This is my proof. The Torrens system, this register provides me with proof. Go back to page 11. Defective and invalid. The Torrens system has been declared defective and invalid. That means your proof, your documentation is declared
by the
defective.
Supreme Court of British Columbia.
Currently only the Supreme Court of British Columbia.
Correct. So I'm not touched. I'm in Quebec. Thank God.
You are not.
Don't worry, it'll get to you. It'll screw you as well.
It'll happen in Quebec.
No, there will be a civil war before that.
Right. So what it is, the defective and invalid because of point 2, right? Found to be to infringe on Cowichan Aboriginal title. So go to page 8. And that discusses derivative title, meaning your ownerships come from your previous owner, right? And that's your Torrens system, right? That's your paper trail. You derive your ownership from a previous legitimate owner, thereby giving you legitimacy. But by the BC Supreme Court judge determining that the Torrens system is invalid because the system impinges on Aboriginal claim on that claim to title, and your authority as a home owner is derived from previous owners who also derived from Torrens. So this is how you dismantle the system. This is how you dismantle the system. Go to 13. Page 2.
I love how did you throw this presentation in the air and just messed up the order?
I didn't really know what to do with the order, but I knew that when we were talking about it, I would begin to see how the order would naturally fall out in conversation. So indefeasible is, so back to again the Torrens system, and what that means is under the Torrens system, no defense against. So the claim, the important phrase here is superior constitutional claims. Superior constitutional claims. Yes, Andre, they're actually saying that the Aboriginal claim has constitutional
Well, they can
authority.
say that I'm a black man too, and I will not
Yep.
believe them.
Yeah.
Tim,
So this
can I ask a
is
question?
problematic. Yeah.
So before moving forward, to me, private property rights, and let's just focus on land, it's just the easiest one. It's almost facilitated by the state, and it's facilitated by common law. So you had this like reckless, lawless situation in Canada, the North American territories in the 1600s, 1700s. British common law comes in, and that's where it starts. The courts are basically saying, how is the judge interpreting things that happened before law came into Canada? Does that make sense?
Yes. And here's our friend who keeps coming up, Charles Fichtner. The reason why the east of the country is not as fucked up as the west is because remember when the king said, well, we've got this line, that we've got all this new property now after taking it from Napoleon. I'm not ready to put government into that. Includes what I'm going to do with the land, who's going to administrate it, who's going to have access and rights, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not ready to do that yet. When we are ready, then we will do it. And of course, then the proclamation, right? And then they sort it out, they move in. However, way over here on the west frickin' coast, you already have an independent British colony busy making laws, busy making, right? But for all intents and purposes, an independent nation, because it's so far away from the crown. It's so far away from the monarchy, right? So you've got Vancouver over here doing this thing. You've got the men and women making British Columbia act as an independent nation and having the ability to make rules and treaties, et cetera, with the native peoples here in the province already. A lot of the title claims in BC are older than the title claims that are happening in like Southern Ontario and over toward Manitoba, et cetera. Older, right? And with Quebec, Upper Canada, Lower Canada, a lot of these things were settled a long time ago. So what you're really doing is this. UNDRIP says, we don't care if across your entire continent, you've got 4 or 5 different phases of development at varying degrees of, competency and completion. We don't care. You're under one flag now. So they mash it all together. They don't care. So now you've got the leftist judges in BC who are more than happy to take UN resolution and insert that into contract law, right, in Canada, and attach Aboriginal claim directly to the Constitution, which mean and they're doing it to it's a collective group, and they're doing it to a minority. So this satisfies DEI as well, doesn't it? Right? It satisfies intersectionalism. It's a complete Marxist game. It's a Marxist.
Well, maybe I have a question. You have such thing as a leftist judge? They're not supposed to be impartial judges?
I'm sorry. Let me. I got to check my definition. Over in BC, you have these ridiculously leftist judges. There, that's the correct definition.
Okay. No, it's because when you mentioned this, I'm happy that you bring back Charles Fichtner and the fact that the Crown didn't want to mess up with the west part of Canada because they were not able to implement a government with police, with a police force and laws. So they said, okay, this territory will not take care of it. It's Canada, but it's the Wild West. We're not messing. But you had people in BC and Alberta that were starting to mobilize, and I would say they were developing Canada. Who really developed Canada in the last 300 years? Native people? They still live in reserve and ghettos. Name me one developer who is native, one developer, one physician, one doctor, one great writer, one great artist, name one. Who
Louis
developed
Riel.
Canada? Who? Louis Riel, he was a politician. That's not a good example.
You had to
And he
Google
was
that, didn't you?
he was métis. He was not pure blood. Oh, we can also refer to the DNA now. I
Yes.
have some people here.
Yes.
I had a friend, a woman. She was an orphan, adopted, but she claimed that she had native blood. I said, how can you have native blood if you don't even know your parents? That's very easy. Tomorrow, you were talking about the eye or transgenderism. Tomorrow, I will identify as a Aboriginal or Native person, and I will fight the inconsistency of the United Nations. There's no such thing as UN.
And
there's no such thing as United Nation.
Yeah. The picture up above that the Canadian homeowner is not going to readily see because he's incensed and he's fearful, and rightly so. He's incensed and he's fearful. So the red mist descends and he doesn't look at what's going on up top. And I'm not saying this to give the Aboriginal peoples, a victim, a cloak of victimhood, but I am saying that they are being taken advantage of, not equal to us, but they are being used as tools. They are being used as tools. What I'm interested in today is identifying the type of language that has not shown up in a lot of mainstream media, and that is that while on the right there's a lot of fear about, well, I'm the home, like that gentleman on the video that we saw right from the town hall. He says, I've been paying for my home for 25 years. It's my home. I've been paying property taxes in the municipality, and now the mayor, the premier doesn't come out to talk to us. The judge doesn't come out to talk to us. They leave the mayor to come out, and he doesn't have answers. So it's that unsettlingness, and then we see the effect in the corporate layer, because insurers and real estate and business are backing out of the market in British Columbia because the uncertainty is there. To try to offset that, the court has said the Crown has 18 months to determine how it is going to move forward. So in this creates what's called cloud on title, right? So that would be page 30, right? So in cloud on title, let's just get to it.
I like the expression.
Right? How many times have we said it's foggy or it's cloudy?
It's foggy.
Right? So much of this language is 300, 400, 500, 600 years old, right? Because it's interesting that the court has chosen to use this language in their sentence and then refer to the Crown, because they're not talking to the government of Canada, they're talking to the Crown. So this is, and so the document the judge, the court itself acknowledges this is a lot bigger than us, right? So the cloud on title is any potential claim, lien, or encumbrance. So
does that include BlackRock?
That would be
BlackRock. Would be BlackRock's not.
That would be the Crown. Okay, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you.
Yeah. So the bottom is title companies won't insure a property with the cloud, and that's kind of a big deal, right? So, and at the moment, if you need to clear a lien or encumbrance on your property, you as the homeowner, you as the title holder, are the sole individual responsible and the sole individual with the authority to do so. So the court says we cannot put the homeowner in a position where every Aboriginal claimant must negotiate with every individual homeowner. So we're right. So we are right. We're loading that responsibility for negotiation onto the Crown, and we're telling the Crown we recommend compensation so that the homeowners are not at risk of losing their property. Right? So what they're saying is the Crown made this happen. The Crown has to fix it. Right? This goes back to JT made a comment earlier. How did they get here in this first place? Because the Crown was satisfied it was an out of sight, out of mind problem, right? Out of sight, out of mind. The drawback is you have Indigenous relationships and development across an entire continent in 4 or 5 major pieces and processes of sections of time. Like I said, British Columbia is effectively its own country, and the way it has done with original title and Aboriginal treaties and whatnot is different, fundamentally different in what was done in Eastern Canada, say like on the Maritimes, or what was done in the St. Lawrence corridor, right? Because most of the early stuff would have been along the St. Lawrence corridor down to the Great Lakes. And then by the time you get to the Great Lakes and up into the prairies, that includes the American prairies, right, the whole breadbasket area. Like Fichtner said, the monarch said, "Not yet. Don't touch it. Don't go there. I need to think about this." So at that moment, you had 4 major land masses with varying degrees of government in Canada, and I'm not even talking about the states. So you got the Maritimes, Upper Canada, Lower Canada, more or less as a single entity, but it's also 200 years old by that time. And then you have the Canadian prairies, Rupert's Land. So HBC is, pretty much manages all that. And then Alberta, not quite so much, because it's still Rupert's Land. And British Columbia is robust. Right? By the time this transfer happens, British Columbia is in a pretty robust state. So it's reasonably, as far as civilization is, it's reasonably well developed. And then the UN declaration comes in and ignores, I don't care what state you're at. You're this old, you're that old, you're this developed, you're that developed. We don't care. We're just going to blanket apply it.
That's good. That's good. We don't care. We don't fucking care about the United Nations or the World Health Organization, for example. Those international institutions, and the international, the pseudo international community never existed. Trump proved it again today. And it's quite funny because when we hear this, those great laws and great discourse and great documents that are in the head of those constitutional lawyers that are working for the UN, who are paid $500,000 per year to produce this bullshit, which will never be implemented, because I will never negotiate with those people. There's a lot of people who will not negotiate. Peyman said something very important since a couple of weeks now. He said, when people will lose their home, or when they will lose their freedom, it is very close, the right to produce your own food. When they will lose this, they will rise. It's not in the cloud anymore. What they're proposing is it's not even the loss of sovereignty. Because I know we don't have sovereignty. I know I have property rights. I know I have the documents, but of course they can expropriate me anytime they want.
Yeah.
I know this. It doesn't mean that I will not retaliate. That's the first step of a civil war. When people will start to realize that they are deprived of everything, they will rise. Whether Canadians are kind people or not, they will experiment what is happening now in Ukraine, or what was happening many times in Europe. And communism, it's not because you put more communism that it will work. It will not work. And you mentioned something, victims. Now that transgenderism doesn't work anymore because the using people as victim to use them as weapon, they will use native people as weapon. If they're stupid enough to think that the crown will give them right that they don't have because Canada is owned by corporations, it's not even owned by Great Britain anymore. It is quite funny to see if they believe this. We can talk about, for example, Ukraine. BlackRock owns practically all the west of Ukraine. Or good luck, BlackRock, because when people in Ukraine will discover that they were dispossessed from their land, they will go against those corporations. The real enemy are those corporations that are manipulating international community, which does not exist. And we can talk about Gaza now. Same thing with Gaza,
right,
the
Andre,
greater Israel.
Stop.
Let me just finish. When they arrive with this and the BC Supreme Court, I don't care about the BC Supreme Court. They can rule if they want, but there's no moral, they have no legitimacy on the moral ground, not at all. And if native people cannot understand that, too bad for them.
What you said about Ukraine and BlackRock applies directly to this situation, in the sense that Ukrainian people are being taken advantage of, grossly taken to the point of losing more than 1.5 million young men as soldiers, not including all the collateral damage that we never get reports on. That hasn't happened in Canada yet, but
it will.
The BlackRock comparison is useful because it is not the Indigenous people who are going to benefit if such a thing.
Not at all.
Right. So let's say the Crown does successfully find a way to negotiate, right? So they would be using taxpayer money to pay off, right, to buy the right to your land, so that only the Crown has claim to your land. Let's say they successfully manage to do that, which is actually the path of least resistance. But let's say they actually manage to do that. Then the gross bulk of the Indigenous people will never see that money, because
they never see the money already.
That's correct. Exactly. So you've got several hundred years of watching them move away from their own rigorous tribal, development and internal processes to manage how they take care of themselves and as a culture, to where they've learned from the skullduggery of the white man and learned how it only takes a few people in very key positions to be able to take advantage of everybody else. So the ones that are going to benefit are the ones that are pushing these things from the top. So none of this is going to is going to ease the condition of the average Indigenous person living in Canada. None of this is going to help them at all.
Tim, can I, here's how I see it. You got the average Canadian and you got the average Indigenous, and now they're fighting at each other. They hate each other because of this.
Yeah.
You have the average Canadian has a home, and they are indirectly buying that home again. So you're giving tax money to the Crown. The Crown goes and negotiates it with the Indigenous, and
all taxpayers will be buying it again.
Yeah, but it's you, right? Like, you're buying your home again. That's what it means when your tax dollars are going to negotiate. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Well, I mean, you bought that house, right?
I get it. But the truth is, all taxpayers are paying for it, and that's the bottom line that I'd like to come out of this. Is you've got Joe, in Richmond saying, "What am I going to do? Are they going to come and take my home?" And the bottom line is no, because there's 40 million people in Canada who are going to pay for it.
Right, but if tomorrow morning every single Aboriginal went to every single property owner, and then you had to use your taxes to buy back that home, that you're buying your home again from the Cowichan tribe. And then the day after that, you're buying it back from the Mohican tribe. And the day after that, from the Cherokee tribe.
No, I'd only done once.
Well, why?
Because there's only one tribe laying claim based on previous treaties. A lot of this has to do with the treaty situation, right?
Yeah.
So those you can only have one tribe or one collective with a treaty claiming one piece of land at one time. You won't find the Iroquois over here in Cowichan territory laying claim to Joe Blow's piece of territory in South Richmond. That's not
what happens if tomorrow I find that my Persian ancestors managed to cross the Bering Strait and they actually got to Richmond before the Aboriginals? Can I lay claim?
If you can prove it.
So, well, that would actually have a possibility of succeeding in Canadian court if the UN made an UNDRIP for the Persian people.
UNDRIP?
So see, what I'm saying is, what we're seeing down here at the bottom is effectively just people trying to figure out contract law, effectively just trying to work out business contract law, right? Where you got two people saying, "Oh, that's my invention." No, that's my invention, right? And so they're trying to figure it all out. What's really happening is what's at the top. So what happens after Canada becomes a territory where the Aboriginal people have been paid equivalent value for property that now becomes theirs, fee simple? And I don't mean homes, I mean swaths of land, fee simple. You have literally created a fractured country that is toes made of iron and mud. Right. And so once you have physical claims and physical properties of Aboriginal title and Crown title all across Canada, and then you have the individual citizen property title, all these three major pieces, how hard do you think it'll be to turn Canada into a big pile of shit that has no border whatsoever? right? So the thing is, this is all moving toward one world, right? One government. It's all moving to one government underneath wherever the UN happens to, call home at the moment. The final goal, by the time we get into, certainly, I think for sure, by the time we get into 2050, these types of things will happen to every other major Western civilized nation to such a point as to fracture that nation to a point where it has no legal claim of independence at all, because it'll be too fractured. And so the UN, the UNDRIP and UNDRIPA are specifically designed over another generation or so to destroy the concept. When Trudeau said a post-nation state, he was right. It's
Well,
just
Trudeau
he let the cat out of the bag early. So he got to sit at the round table somewhere, and they said, "This is our grand plan," and he came out and let the cat out of the bag a bit early. But he's right.
Well, he's right. He's a fucking moron. He was, and he's still a fucking moron. And what is funny is that you had 10 million or 15 million Canadian who voted for him. Good for them. If they lose their land, good for them. Or if they're paid money to keep their land with their own tax money. This is money transfer, wealth transfer. It's not new. We $22 billion that we sent to Ukraine already in 3 years.
24.5.
24. Thank you, Peyman. And there's something, the Universal Declaration of Man, Citizen, the third amendment. The nation isn't essentially the source of all sovereignty. So if we follow the quote of Trudeau or post-national state, good luck, because when people will start to fall in ghettos, they will form milice. I'm ready now. Now they infuriated me. It takes a lot of time, but I'm ready to rise and to form a milice and defend my neighborhood. And this will arrive. I can guarantee you this will arrive. Young people who cannot have any perspective over property right, which is I have the right to a roof, a land. This is in the Universal Declaration of Man and Citizen. If they want to undermine this, they will just unfold their contradiction. The international institution will fall on their own contradiction, and they are already falling. We see it everywhere. They're already falling. I go back again to might makes right. It's not complicated. If I have weapons that were fueled to Ukraine, and you have a lot now that are circulating in Europe, people will start milice. They will defend their position based on their value, on their ideology. That's what will happen. So this precedent in British Columbia will just infuriate people. I think about Albertan people now. They will have a referendum in October 2026. Imagine if they all vote, let's say, forget about the Clarity Act. They all vote, let's say, 65% for the sovereignty of Alberta. It will take years to negotiate with the federal government. We have the experience in Quebec. It never happened. Even Chrétien admit that he would never negotiate with the province. So the Crown will use the same tactic. Do you think Alberta will say to the Crown or the federal government, well, the BC Supreme Court does not apply to us anymore? That's simple.
It won't be the BC Supreme Court if it is the Crown that takes it on its shoulders and does it, because the Crown is the whole Dominion of Canada, right? So the BC court is being smart, self-preservation, right? Because they're offloading responsibility not to the government of Canada, which could push it back down to the provinces, and then Carney can say, "Oh, but the Constitution says this is your responsibility, there, Mr. Province," and offload it that way. The court has pushed it straight to the Crown, so that will be the entire country. What I'm saying is, number one, the referendum in Alberta, they can't separate, because if Albertan Aboriginal title happens and they choose to take land as opposed to getting paid, then Alberta is no longer Alberta. Alberta becomes fractured physically, politically fractured.
Okay, okay.
So,
Wait.
and
You
so
said
the hold on, let me finish. The idea of us, of Canada as a unified geopolitical entity is over. It's
well.
done. It's
Let's.
done. It died in the courthouse on that day, because we've
Let's say.
now been subservient to the crown once more, and what the king chooses to do will be done.
Let's say, even if I disagree with the independence of Quebec, I can guarantee you that you have 40% of Quebecers who will say, "Go fuck you, the crown." Canada never existed because Quebec is an independent.
What if that's intended?
Let me talk now. Let me speak now. I will tell you something. When Alberta will vote yes, and the native people will claim the territory, you will have a clash, and it will not be in a court of justice. It will not be in a court of justice. It will be on. That's what we call boots on the ground. You will see boots on the ground. There's a lot of Albertans who are quiet now, but when you will threaten their land or their sovereignty, they will defend it, and it will not be with words. I can guarantee you this.
But see, that doesn't threaten the crown. That doesn't threaten the government. That doesn't even threaten provincial. But what I'm saying is, if the people physically clash to defend rights perceived and otherwise, right?
Yes.
If the people defend, yes, like Oka. If the
like
people
Oka.
defend, right? If the people defend, the government will choose a side and then send the militia after the other side. And so by militia, I mean, but no, you can.
No, but
well, that's what's going to happen.
With the military, with tampons, it is. You know,
they won't use the Canadian military. They'll use the same hired thugs they brought in for the emergency for trampling.
They're doing the same.
And the lady that they trampled, she was the chief of her local tribe. They don't give a shit. They don't have to care. That's the thing. They don't have to care.
You know, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's a war declaration. It's a war declaration. And when you have this language, when the BC Supreme Court rule for this language, they have to accept that the opponent will be at war too. And I've said it many times since the last year. I said, we are at war, and at war, the language changes. Yeah. Why do you think Russia never declared war to Ukraine and NATO does not declare war to Russia? Because they know that if you declare war, the target are not the same. The strategies are not the same. If the war is declared by the United Nations through the BC Supreme Court, the reaction of the people will be accordingly to the declaration. And I can guarantee you, I'm not the only one who's thinking like this.
So let's go to page 17. So give Andre time to release a little bit of steam so we can wind him up.
You're killing me here, Tim. 17. I swear. Next page, you're going to ask for page 1.
No, the next page after that will be page 24. Okay, so we're talking about burdening. And so this is the issue here. And this is what Andre is speaking, that with what happens in the real world based on what happens in legal documentation. Fee simple ownership rights now legally coexist with Aboriginal title. Right now. Right? And so this burdening is the issue, right? Your right in BC, and so notice that New Brunswick already has a solution. New Brunswick told the Aboriginal claims, no private property, not included. That's not on the table. So Nova Scotia has already begun this negotiation process by saying, we'll come to the table with the Aboriginal claimants, but private property, not on the table. They just said it flat out, and the court said it, right? So they're going to have a claim, it'll be Crown land, which means, once again, taking up the conversation with the Crown. And that, and so be it, right? British Columbia didn't exactly go that route, because what we're seeing now is this burdening problem. So here in British Columbia, for the next 18 months, if I own land, I have to accept that Indigenous use and governance has a claim to my backyard, to my driveway. But right, to prevent the absolute chaos that would create, the court said the Crown has 18 months to sort this out. So in that 18 months, basically said, this is where it is right now. It does indeed legally coexist with, the actual Crown land, Crown ownership of your land, but it will not be applied. So you have 18 months to figure this out. New Brunswick has shown that it's already done it. It's already gone and done it. It said, we will indeed sit down with the Aboriginal claimants, but private property, not on the table, not happening.
Wait, but okay, New Brunswick, okay, it's very nice with taxpayer again. So I have to buy. No, but this is quite fascinating. And I would say, for example, okay, let's say again, Alberta or Quebec. Okay, we do a referendum and we get out. Who recognized the result of the referendum? Who? United Nations? This institution that is undermining the sovereignty of people will recognize the international community. And I have some precedent. I will just small. France 2005 didn't want to go into the European Union. They were forced to. Crimea 2014, Russia, they did a referendum. 92% agreed to be reunited with Russian Federation. Never recognized by the United Nations. Kosovo 1991. Catalonia 2017 with Spain. South Ossetia in Georgia. Donbass 2014, Lugansk and Donetsk. And the United Nations never recognized this, and we trust them. This is the British Columbia Supreme Court was on fentanyl, and they were told to rule for this because they don't know what to do. The nepotism or the stupidity of the Crown since 159 years is astonishing. GT made the comment. They will do in 18 months what they were not able to do in 159 years. They pushed away the problem or the debate, and now they will fix this problem in 18 months. They will not be there in 18 months.
Yeah, from a Canadian legal perspective, and that being the separation of federal power and provincial power, is by creating the Indian Act. The Indian Act silos, right, all things surrounding what need to be done with the native populations and to provide governance and assistance and support, et cetera, development, et cetera. All of it's packed into the Indian Act, which effectively silos it away from all other ministries, federal and provincial, right? Silos it away. So like you said, push it up, out of sight, out of mind, 159 years, and now it's blown up. It is blown up because the UN knows. The UN, they do dumb things, apparently, what seems to be stupid to us, but the end goal is no state, no borders, no flags, no geopolitical structures. But they're doing it. But they are doing it. So the question is, if we are going to prevent them and take back what is a country worth keeping, will it be Canada as we see it today, or will it be some other structure? Because the UN's not right. I don't think but people are already talking about Alberta. If Alberta secedes, then Canada doesn't exist as it did before.
Exactly.
Right.
Don't forget one thing, Right? We're 2026 now, and you still have tribe who don't have running water. In 2026, the Indian Act, like you said, was a way to not tackle the situation. Yep. The Crown never took its responsibility or its duty to protect his citizen or its subject. So they always push that away. So because they're degenerate, pervert, and bankrupt since the 17th century. That's Great Britain. So that's Great Britain.
Clown World. I don't know where my other dog is. Max, he's got to be around here somewhere. I hope. I'll bring him back. Gary says, anyone else ever notice that UNDRIP doesn't apply in Ireland or other Western European countries? When they originally brought UNDRIP, I believe 2015, there was 4 countries that objected: Canada, America, Australia, New Zealand. These 4 countries have substantial Aboriginal populations. That means the other people that voted for the bill, they didn't have substantial populations of Aboriginal.
They were
Like,
not targeted by the bill.
yeah, exactly. And they wanted to split up these countries, as Tim is saying.
So then
Look,
why are the 4 nations that said no, which do have considerable, right, Aboriginal Indigenous populations, why those 4? Because the UN
America
needs the UN needs the colonies, including America,
yes,
under
yes,
its wing, because the
yes.
colonies are the single economic civilization, technological.
Tim, I would change
powerhouse.
one. I would change one word. It's not the UN. It's the city of London. It's England.
Well,
It's Europe.
the city of
Brussels.
London. You can the international banking cartel. It's not complicated when you look at central bank, and you're mentioning Gary's mentioning Ireland and the Western countries, but those countries they are more patriotic that we will ever be in Canada. I think many Canadians were so shocked when they saw the Freedom Convoy. It says, what? Everybody, the world was, it comes from Canada? We never expected that. But of course, it was coming from Alberta and some people that pushed this movement. It will come back. It will come back. You know, you don't wake up the beast. Even Canadian.
There are protests in BC right now, like today, organized across the entire province today, with major events happening in the city as we speak today. So yes, unfortunately, Canadians seem to be most active politically in wintertime. I don't know why the fuck you continue to do that. So what's the likelihood of something happening where everybody goes back to Wellington Street in Ottawa again? Probably very low. But if people were to bring voices to their local town hall, right, the mayoralty, and to their local MLA offices and their local provincial major cities and whatnot, then yeah, you'll have effectiveness. But at this point, like there's, and this is me speaking personally, we don't have a new convoy event because we're still basking in the faux FAUX old rusted glory of a previous high point in Canadian history. We're still saying, oh, remember the convoy? I'm sorry, pal, but that's 3 years ago already. And right now, 3 years ago might as well have been 30 years ago.
4 years.
4 years ago. 4 years ago. Oh, that's right, too, because next month will be 4 years, right? So we have this habit of sitting on other people's laurels.
No, I agree. I don't know. I think you do not sit on this. I do not sit on this, and I can guarantee you, I'm not the only one. What will happen in 2026 with the Alberta referendum? I'm watching this very closely. It's like wow, it's like butter and bread for me because I can recognize my enemies and my allies who will fight for the right of people, who will rise. And I do agree with you with the idea of we remember the Freedom Convoy, but the War Declaration, when it is signed by the BC Supreme Court, is real. Now the conversation I will have with my very few friends or family or colleague, or it will always say, "Are you owner of your house? Good luck. You will lose your house in 18 months." I will scare them just to wake them up, because I can guarantee you, if we saw this in 2020, March in 2020 in Costco, people were robbing or buying all the toilet paper because it's the end of the world. It was, and I think I have friends who goes for Costco. I never go there, and I was like, "What is it? What?" The panic was real everywhere. You fooled people. Will you fool them again? 3 to 5 days without food or energy in winter, or somebody comes and knock at your door to take your house. I can guarantee you, I'm a kind man. You will have a lot of people who will be less diplomatic than me, and it will not take a lot of time. So this judgment, in my opinion, it's only to buy time because they don't know what to do. Their strategy is collapsing. The strategy of the globalists is collapsing, and they're trying everything they can to stay on track, the 2030 agenda. We're in 2026 now. They try to implement it, but it doesn't work as planned.
So let's just go to page 32, the conclusion, so then we can get ready to have conversations with them. So page 32. Yeah, so this is basically what I do have my thoughts at the end, but this is 32. So the legal assumption of absolute crown authority has been dismantled.
Crown sovereignty.
That's the big one. Has been dismantled. Existing private property owners are informed that they will not lose their property.
Probably.
Are they
And we all
probably
know what
informed or probably won't lose it?
Right. Probably
Both.
been informed. Yeah.
Both.
So and go to 33. Next page. Oh, I'm sorry, 34.
You don't want to go to page 12?
No. So this is my takeaway. So fee simple means I own the title, right? Torrent system, like Andre had said earlier. Here's my proof. My proof has been invalidated. Why? UNDRIP. See, UNDRIP. The Torrens system, Canada, Australia, has 2 markers, gone. And so the Crown has to figure that out, because right now, so they've been told, so the burdening is 2 dogs fighting over my bone, right? I'm the homeowner. I'm not, but I'm a renter, but I'm a homeowner. And I have 2 dogs fighting over my bone, and it's my bone. And the court recognizes that it's my bone, but now they say, yep, there's 2 dogs fighting over it. And then they'd say to the 2 dogs, you guys sort it out. So compensation is the Crown will buy the Aboriginal right to private property title, so that the Aboriginal claim to any private property title has been purchased from them. The same as Hollywood buying the rights to produce a movie out of somebody's book, same idea. Cloud on titles, this leads to the news that we've been seeing ever since this chaos, where lending agencies, land developers, right, real estate agents are all deathly afraid to conduct trade because they don't know who really owns it. Because if you've just smashed the Torrent system to pieces, how do I know what I'm borrowing is how do I know what I'm spending my money on is protected? And then so the conclusion is private property owners are safe for now.
For now. Okay, stay on this slide. It's very funny because compensation, Crown to buy Aboriginal right. And they will buy with money. After that, you devaluate the money. It is worth nothing. Look at what is happening with the assets of Russia, Russian assets in the European Union. The Belgian government decided to backtrack because they were afraid of the legal consequences. Now, $300 billion. Now, the Russian government passed a decree that they will be able to seize $900 billion of European assets on the territory of the Russian Federation. Total Energy, BMW, Mercedes, Renault, all those companies that were in Russia, luxury residence, yacht, everything from private property, private goods to land and everything. They didn't do it yet, but they will do it. Who will invest in Russia? Or who will invest it in a bank in Europe? If tomorrow they can rob your money point blank. It's not very complicated. What will happen in Canada will be the same thing. They arrive, they buy back your land, but there's a problem. If I don't want to sell, they have to expropriate me. Then I will go to court and I will rule that, okay, it's the market value. My land is worth $20 million, $30 million. You pay me or you don't have it. You talk about lenders and insurance anxiety. The lenders, the system, the banking system in Canada is completely bankrupt, and they know it. and they try to find a way to get out of this mess. But the only way I see it, it's 70% devaluation of our quality of life. It's not complicated. 70%, I'm conservative. You talk about private property owners are safe. There's a party in France, La France Insoumise. It's the left party in France. And one member of the party said clearly, he said, we are aiming at the end of private property in France. That's clear, black and white, black on white. It cannot be more clear than that. So that's communism. It's very simple. If people don't understand that, they will merit their karma. It's simple.
But yeah, we have used bantied around, and not necessarily us specifically, but other louder voices in our podcast sphere have talked about techno-feudalism and whatnot. It's not, because even in feudalist Europe, the commoners had hereditary claim to the house and property they were on. They had a recognized hereditary claim to the house and property, the town where they lived, the hills that were on. They had hereditary claim. And even under a feudal system, they did not own it, but because the landlord and the owners and the crown understood, we need you to stay where you are, to produce, right, the wool that you're producing, to produce the flax you're producing, to produce the arrows you're producing. We need you there. We recognize your value. That's a feudal system. Maybe you don't own it, but they recognize your value. But in what we are looking at, it's straight up communism. So that's where Russia says, what's it? When they took all the land from the
decolonization, 1920, 1925.
Right.
They were depriving all the small farmers from their land.
Yes.
That created a huge famine, huge famine in Ukraine and in Russia, because everybody talks about the decolonization or the Holodomor in Ukraine, but it was also everywhere in Russia.
Yeah.
20 million people.
Yeah. So that's and we're hearing about livestock and farms being shut down in Europe.
Now they're slaughtering thousands of cows for one case, and now the farmer are fighting back. Polish farmer
and the ostriches actually set a bit of a precedent for that, didn't it? Because they knew they could get away with it.
Well, of course, but we don't talk about chicken and ducks in Canada that were slaughtered. But in France now, it's been 12 or 15 days now that they are opposing the government because of the Mercosur. Mercosur is this agreement with South America, because they want to flood France and Europe with cheap and beef that is not regulated, that will destroy the artisanal or the structure of farming in France. So the European Union will fall this year. That's a prediction. And NATO will fall. And after that, the card will be reshuffled. How it will unfold, especially with what happened with Venezuela, I don't know. But I can guarantee you the Alberta referendum is in October. There's a lot of time that will pass and a lot of events that will unfold in 8 or 9 months. I think this year will be rock and roll.
Well, I'll go back to what I said at the beginning. I'm going to have a nice, quiet, boring, uninteresting, no adventures, no unexpected events, 2026.
Donald Trump has something to say about that.
I'm staying in the Shire, goddammit. Fuck more.
I got a question for you, Tim. Compensation, the Crown to buy the Aboriginal rights. So they're using taxpayer money.
Yes.
In your mind, is this like the United Nations giving back to the poor Aboriginals, so it's a straight up transfer of wealth? Or is this a transfer of wealth knowing that the money is going to evaporate somehow in some NGO somewhere? Or is this purely just to destabilize the country, to take wealth and send it somewhere else and get people fighting with each other?
So the Crown, being represented by the Canadian government, will facilitate negotiations of how much is this property worth and how much is this property worth. That'll involve commissions and specialists and expert witnesses, and that'll be years in the making, during which corporations and banks and real estate agents and et cetera will all not know what to do because they don't know if, right? So let's say a corporation, a land developer comes in and develops a 300 townhome property in South Richmond or whatever, and he's just spent the last umpteen dozen years getting through all the hurdles, right? Local bureaucracy with the city of Richmond and environmental this, and they found a friggin' muskrat and it's a rare muskrat. So they found gold, all that nonsense. Now they finally have access and rights and they're ready to do the deal. And then the judge says this. They've already dumped 20, 30, 40 million dollars into this massive project, getting ready to dump another 120 million dollars into it. And then the judge says this. And so that's what we're experiencing happening in Canada right now, in BC specifically. But Nova Scotia, you see, acted real quick, right? So chances are the Nova Scotian government said, we're not letting this happen here. They went to they went to the court in Nova Scotia. Nova Scotia said, we accept the Aboriginal claim to title, but not on private property, only on Crown land. So that still means that Canadians are going to end up paying, right, for paying that bill when that negotiation happens. But it does mean that the courts in New Brunswick have actively protected their private citizens' ownership, continued sole claim to fee simple, their property. The rest of Canada hasn't done that yet.
Well,
sorry, let me rephrase the question. Is the United Nations intention to rob us of our money and steal the money, or is it their intention to destabilize the country, in your opinion?
What's more valuable, the money or the land? Fiat money means jack shit. Fiat money means jack shit, right? That's like people people I know are saying, Tim, are you seeing what's happening with silver? And I roll my eyes because I know what's coming. Yeah, you gotta buy silver. I said, against what is this silver valued? Oh, it's $130 US for, yeah, but you've been telling me for 3 years that fiat money is jack. It means nothing, and it's only going to have less and less value. So unless I'm speculating, right? And right now, those who are actually doing long-term speculating are speculating against their own fiat currency. Because what happens when it goes tits up, right? What happens when central digital currency comes in? Then your silver is only the value of what I trade at a local level, right? That's it. So we have the same concept here, is while people are, and it will happen, that the government will use taxpayer money to pay Aboriginal claimants to say, this part of Richmond has private property on it. You cannot have that. We will pay you the equivalent real world current value to rescind your claim to those fee simple properties. And so they will do that. Does the UN care about how much that is or isn't? No. Does the government of Canada care how much that is or isn't? To a degree, because they're taking money out of their coffer in order to facilitate this transaction.
To
a degree, and they'll try to lowball them, right?
What money?
Our coffers,
well, okay, so money that they money that they print out of thin air.
Money that they print. Right. So it's not. That's money. Of course,
we all know it's an illusion. Just go with me on this. The question was, where does the money go, and is the money more valuable than the land? Knowing that the money continues to devalue, then whatever money they get, they must spend quickly in order to get them, right? The UN doesn't care about the money. They care that the land, the geopolitical structure, the boundaries between a municipality and a region and a province and a country, that those are utterly fractioned. That's what they care about. Right?
They don't care. The United Nations is a criminal organization. They don't care. Let me just give you some facts, some numbers. 3,200 billion lire, pounds. That's the UK debt. 3,500 billion euro, that's the France debt. $1.3 trillion, that's the Canadian debt. And you tell me that they will buy what? The Ponzi scheme is collapsing since 2008, and every time they bring back more what they call capitalism. There's not enough capitalism, so we have to bring more. The funny part is you tax
As
people.
long as I have one of these, and as long as someone will trade with it, it will continue to have value. It's
yes, what you will buy with this? What you will buy with this?
Drinks are on
toilet
you.
paper. No, I'm buying toilet paper. I saw that show. I'm buying.
Can I just talk for 5 minutes?
Drinks are on you, Tim.
Yeah.
I'm taxed at the level of 60%. When I will arrive at 100%, which means, but because they will not be able to print money indefinitely, one day there's an end to this. They have to devaluate. They devaluate the life of people. And when people will arrive, we see it now, 2 million people go to food banks every month in Canada. 2 million. That's quite a lot. Huh? That's about 5% of the population of Canada. So,
yeah.
So when you look at this and you say, where do you take the money? You print it. If you print it and it is not backed by assets, what happened? You have to sell your assets. 2011.
That's a different conversation.
It's the same.
It's a different conversation.
Economics. I'm talking about economics because it is economic. Native people, do they understand economics? Do they understand that they will never see this land? They didn't. They lost the war. They lost the war. American, Occidental man arrived, Western man arrived here, colonized developed this country, and they lost it. And I can even say to French Canadian in Quebec, you lost in 1759. You lost. You want to protect your language and your territory. Well, you don't even develop your natural resources. It is economic. It's not about Aboriginal or ancestral right. They don't care about rights of people.
The UN
Native people, will they understand that?
Everything that we're watching, the fallout of the UNDRIP and UNDRIPA and whatnot, the fallout of this is intended. They want destabilization. They don't necessarily care to what degree, issue A destabilizes, or to what degree issue G destabilizes.
Hello, Tim. I understood that very well. The question is, what we will do about it?
I don't know.
NDP.
Well, you just have to look what is happening in France now. Macron today, he usually has 80 bodyguard. Today, he signed a decree to have 160 bodyguard.
Is his wife beating him up again?
Most probably. No, it's not his wife. It's not his wife. It's somebody else. But you have to pay attention to those small details that are arriving in Europe.
Yeah.
And how come today Carney is so silent about what happened in Venezuela? Oh, they scream, Slava Ukraine free. Suddenly, the government of the United States did a coup in Venezuela, and suddenly Carney shuts his mouth. Oh, strange. Maybe he's next. There's a lot of people in Canada would be very happy to see a coup in Canada. Maybe that would not be that bad.
Oh, hell yeah. If the Delta Force came in and arrested Carney, my only regret would be that it didn't arrest Trudeau.
Shit, I have a bottle of champagne that is ready.
That's the comment I wanted you to bring up. The key phrase is at the end of the first sentence, Indigenous Industrial Complex, because that's the money that Andre's been talking about. Right. So they are going to be the major benefactors of UNDRIP in the short term. So the transfer of wealth that Peyman discussed early on, this is that particular direction. So you have, let's look at the three of us in our picture, in our frame here in our show. So you have Peyman as a homeowner, right? And then you have Andre as Crown, and me as Aboriginal claimant. So the Crown says, the court says to Peyman, we will get the Crown to protect your land by paying off the Indigenous claimant, the Aboriginal claimant. So then they move me out of the picture, but I'm still taking the taxpayers' money, right? And the government doesn't care because it's not their money, and we're in debt to 1.3 trillion dollars. So what's another $1 trillion? We don't care.
I know.
Right?
Yes,
So,
we understood that, Tim. We understood that. But
right.
when we think about indigenous people, I go back to a simple fact again. So many tribes don't even have running water. Oh, we will develop
Yes.
oil and gas,
Yep.
and where is the accountability and the moral values of those chief of tribe? It's
Right.
amazing. The corruption is everywhere, and we arrive and we paint a judgment by the BC Supreme Court saying that this is what will happen. It will not happen.
Sorry.
It will not happen.
Some levity from our friend Doug Bebb. Imagine a photo of David Eby in handcuffs on a rendition transport to face justice in an American court. It would be like a dream.
Well, you know, some people, they say that they exfiltrated Maduro and his wife today. I can guarantee you that some people would rejoice to see EB or me, Francois Legault. I would be more happy to bring back the guillotine up to a certain point. It's a war declaration. This is a war declaration.
JT,
let's not be naive.
Yeah, JT is correct though, and in the short term, and by short term I mean like the next 10 years. In the short term, I see the Aboriginal NGOs, the Canadian ones, which are actually being partially funded by American ones. We know that already. So the Aboriginal NGO, the NGOs that say they're representing actual Aboriginal issues and are not, because they're in court. They're not paying for plumbing. They're not paying for fresh water. They're not paying for electricity. They're paying for court. So the lawyer class, right? That's all of these white collars and gold collars, parasites who are grifting, saying, right, and they got, it's going to be funny, right? Little Timmy in the wheelchair in his native headdress, and that's what they're playing, and the media eats it up, and Ebby's busy on the sidelines supporting it because, like he said with the drug issues, I'm sorry, we did create this, but I'm not changing it. Right? Because so you have municipal, you have mayors and whatnot talking about this. You have business people and land developers and lenders and insuring agents are talking about this in BC constantly because this is kind of a big deal. Where's Ebby? Nowhere to be found. He will not speak on it. Right? He will not speak on it. So the grift is localized to the NGO class. Let's just call them that, right? NGO class, because there's a whole bunch of other things that are from, whether it's the Alberta or Quebec, or it doesn't matter, right? There's always the NGO group involved in making this happen. They're the ones that are going to make the immediate benefit. Even if the Crown were to tell the Aboriginal claimants and the court, y'all can fuck right off because we are the Crown, like it or lump it. And it has the actual manpower and financial wherewithal to do that, but it probably won't because it frickin' signed on to the goddamn UN 100. So it now has a obligation, even though the UN's not an elected body, it has an obligation.
This is a joke. This is a joke. The we have an obligation to a cartel that does not elected. Wow, I'm impressed.
So the hyperbole of the joke is King Charles will tell Carney, yes, negotiate in good faith to pay off the Aboriginal claim, and that's what will happen. And meanwhile, here's the taxpayer down at the bottom saying, I didn't elect any of you fuckers.
Right?
You got some serious fans tonight, Andre.
Yes. I'm happy because, like I said, like I wrote to you two gentlemen, my political correctness is over in 2026. This is a war declaration, but it's not the only one. It's not the only one. And the tone and the action will follow also. Because when you arrive at a point where you deprive citizens from rights and to favor somebody else, and we know that it's like this in Canada. We know it. But the majority of Canadians don't know it, and they don't want to know it. But when it will hit them personally, they will start to react. You were mentioning something, Peyman. This citizen in Vancouver who went to the town hall, and he was saying that I pay tax since 25 years and I pay my mortgage, and now you're telling me that I'm not owner of my own land. There's a lot of people who will comply, but you will have some people who will resist. And I can think about all those Albertans who are now in the process of thinking, will we vote yes or no? Are we considered patriot? Will we break Canada? Will we be accused of breaking Canada? But do we support the sovereignty of Alberta because we believe in freedom? You will have a lot of people who will start to think about what is happening, especially with this process. This declaration of André is it is a way, or it is a symptom of the collapse of the international institution. They never existed. They existed on paper. The United Nations or the Security Council never worked. Great and political entities, they play with their alliance and zone of influence. Russia, China, India, Europe in a minor way, because Europe is a corrupted fascist organization, and it will collapse in 2026. And it will not collapse in a peaceful way. It never does collapse in a peaceful way. So in Canada, what will happen? I don't know, but I think you say you will have a peaceful and quiet 2026. You want to shut down all media?
I'm looking for my blinders. I have a set of blinders around here somewhere.
Because I think up to a certain point, 2026 will be an historic year. Considering what we're seeing now, we know that there's no politics in Canada anymore. There's nothing. It does not exist. It's not like, I think GT mentioned it. It's only grifting. It's only trying to appease people, but it will not work.
Yeah. I don't know how the general public in Canada is going to respond, but I do know that those people who are property owners, particularly home owners, not necessarily like, I own a warehouse or something, right? But particularly home owners. This is the quote unquote American dream, home ownership. That's the Western dream, home ownership, right? Your entire identity, your children's lives, right? We had 4 dogs in this, right? So, right, all of your stuff, your entire identity, because we've weakening national, provincial, regional, even local identity has been weakening over time. But the home is like last bastion, right? So there's going to be a percentage of those homeowners who will take physical action.
Yes.
Should the axe come for them, that will happen.
Yes.
Is that enough to wake up Canada? Can you imagine that we allowed it to get to that point in the first place? But is it probably not enough, because it's not too difficult to paint them as what? Racist.
No, but this is funny because it's yes, but it's funny, right? You always accuse the other the opponent of something. Yes. He has the plague. I don't care if I have the plague. Yeah. I don't care if somebody calls me an anti-Semitic, or I don't care anymore. It is not about this. If there's no logic, war is the logic. And it is what is happening now in the Donbass and in Ukraine. Mm-hmm. War is the logic. You have psychopath in United States, in Canada, in Great Britain, and in Europe. You have psychopath and narcissistic pig, and they will have what they deserve. they will have what they deserve. And I can guarantee you.
They will, but millions of Canadians will suffer before this gets sorted.
Yes, but like you mentioned, 1.5 million soldiers died in Ukraine on the Ukrainian side, 300,000 on the Russian side, practically 2 million men. 2 million men on in the Donbass. The demography will hit Ukraine like it never hit before this country. It will hit Russia, and it will hit a lot of countries. Yes, we're supposed to have a peaceful. I was wishing a peaceful year, but if we go through war to reach peace, we will do it.
We in the last year or so that we've been on air, we talked about a very large, like a wide range of different topics, and some of them were directly related to each other. But I agree with André made a comment about this before the new year started. UNDRIP is going to become the most critical topic in 2026 across Canada. And what we and some people that I've talked to disagree, and I'm thinking, yeah, but you don't understand. The Crown has 18 months to sort this out. The Crown doesn't do anything in 18 months, right? It takes them 18 months to decide which shell they're going to use to wipe their ass, right? So this is the problem. UNDRIP, not the problem. It's, well, yeah, it is a problem. I was going to say opportunity, but that's my marketing language slipping in. The CBC will also propagate the false narrative 100%. 100%. And I predict, because I'm so really good at predicting, Conservative Party of Canada will support UNDRIP in principle.
There's no such thing as conservative in Canada anymore.
And technically, we were never really ever had any actual true conservatives among us at all. We've all been somewhat on the center or left as a Canadian people, because we have been a socialist democracy since basically the beginning.
That's the worst. That's the worst combination that you can have. And I will go back to 1918, 1920 in Alberta. And that's why maybe I will bring back C.H. Douglas. The fact that capitalism does not work well. Let's put more capitalism. You go on the other side and you have socialism or communism. And we will concentrate all the means of production, and there will be no private property, and everything will work fine. None of those systems work. In Canada, we had an opportunity because you had this system that was pinning the problem, the monopoly of the cartel of the bank. They have a monopoly on everything. And UNDRIP is only the weapon that they're using to undermine the sovereignty of countries. The Declaration of Man and Citizen, 1759, the countries are supposed to protect the sovereignty of people. Anna Arendt wrote about this.
Yes.
About the institution. If we go beyond that, I'm sorry, it is civil war. That's simple.
A country, now let's look at this from a business perspective. If a country has an obligation to protect its citizens, and me as a organization like the UN or whatever, having made this declaration that a country has an obligation to protect its citizens, and now as I'm planning toward 2050 or planetary programs, etc., I'm realizing actually some of the countries that I'm working with are resistant to us, then that means I have to get rid of countries.
Yes.
Right? So if I remove countries, the middleman, right? Because the UN considers a country a middleman. If I'm going for global domination, one world government, one world flag, one world religion, one world currency, one world education, then that means countries actually represent an obstacle. So I have to use the countries to set up the underpinnings so that the country is broken up from underneath of itself, collapses, then all that's left are these struggling people underneath and then the UN sweeps in and saves them.
Well, the UN is an empty shell. It has no military power.
It doesn't matter. It has power.
It does because
it does these things.
It has the power that we give to those institutions. They have no military power at all.
But they do because they execute it. They implement it. There it is. You're watching it. So right, that's
No,
what I've
it
heard.
is.
This
I
quote.
disagree
Right,
with you. They don't have any power.
righteous.
They
No, they do
they
because they're
they
doing
don't.
it. They do because
They
they have your money and they're doing
they
it.
they are
They don't have the
creating.
moral authority. They don't have
They
the
have no
divine
moral.
right.
You talk about business. We always talk about business, but we never talk about religion or spirituality. But where are the moral value? Charles Fixner, when he was here, was talking about natural law. Where is the moral law in United Nations? There's no moral law. It's only interest. It's only interest, and it is what we have. We have experienced since 200 years. It's only self-interest. This is pure capitalism, and it is collapsing now. It is collapsing. Some people
Yes.
think that they will replace it with socialism. It will not happen.
So
Well, it's happening in New York.
if right,
He's a moron. He's a moron. New York.
but that
New
doesn't.
York
Okay,
is not
so
United States. New
somebody's
York is not.
IQ.
It's not the Rust Belt, huh?
Somebody with an IQ of 68 and $100 million in the bank has more power than I do. My
Yes, I
moral
do.
standing is of no value. My
So
moral
what?
standing doesn't
So
justify
what?
damn. It doesn't. All I get to stand on a soapbox that I had to steal from my neighbor because I can't even afford a soapbox.
We will not agree on that. He has no power. In my goal, he has no power. He has no power.
Anybody who can freeze my bank account has all power.
They can. They can freeze
That's
mine.
right.
They can kill me, but they don't have a power on my soul. They have no power on my soul. Well, that's the big difference. I disagree on this because they will just destroy themselves.
See,
So,
and to me, that's philosophical rhetoric.
Well, no, to me, it's a reality.
To bring this back, speaking of reality, to bring it back to reality, one thing I wanted to say, Tim, it's going to sound like I'm disagreeing with you, but it's agreeing with you of how the UN is coming in and breaking everything up. The court, the common law system through the courts in BC and in Canada has committed suicide. They've abdicated their prime responsibility to secure people's person and people's property. That's it. Like, that's all they had to do. If they can't do that, if they can't secure my property, what good are they? Why do we need them? And yes, maybe that's what the UN wanted all along, but that's my observation here.
So André is right. Without a moral core, without recognition that my immortal soul is the single most valuable thing I possess, he's right. Without that, we have nothing. My point is to get enough people as angry as André to do something about it. So I sit here carrying the straight line, looking at it from a what did I say? I try to write without the adjectives and the adverbs. So I just try to be the facts. These are the facts. And then I predict based on facts, not necessarily based on my emotion or it's going to wreck me already. My granddaughter, right? On the real things that matter, right? So André is absolutely right. So he and I are maybe arguing on certain particular points, but it's because the argument must be held. But André is absolutely right. If we do not maintain moral high ground, we lose our soul. And if we lose our soul, what's the fucking point? And he's right. He's right. But I think the UN is hell bent on making sure that Canada is destroyed down to the last man.
Yes, and you mentioned something very important. Australia, Canada, New Zealand. How come it does not affect India, China, Russia, Iran, all it is what, 3.5 billion people? Who fucking
because they're already chaotic. They're already chaotic.
I'm not that sure of that. I think the war is starting to be spiritual. I can refer to Russia and Dugin, for example, when he's saying multipolarity will not work if we don't have moral values. It includes Russia. It will not work. If we continue on this path, we will end up in a global conflict, and we can see now what is happening with Venezuela. So the UNDRIP decision, or the UNDRIP, the declaration, is only one other symptom of a destruction of what we thought was the international community, or the order, the international ruled. It never exists. UN never worked. It never worked. We thought it was working, but it never worked.
So what about my comment? The purpose of the court is to arbitrate disputes over private property. They've abdicated their own. It's like an insurance company that doesn't insure you. They're undermining themselves.
It's an insurance company that says we can withstand 10,000 deaths before we have to change the model.
Well, in every police insurance, you have what we call act of God. Act of God means I cannot predict this, so I will not compensate you. And this act of God, many companies now, they use it. They even use climate change.
That's force majeure, right?
Force majeure, yes,
Yeah.
Force majeure and an act of God. We cannot predict it, so we will not compensate or after an event. That's quite funny because more and more we will have this. And yes, Tim is right.
You bring up an interesting point. If this is an Aboriginal title regarding Aboriginal claims on Aboriginal agreements preceding the province of British Columbia, and all of them do, that means that the primary agent is the Crown. So the court is right to offload everything back to the Crown. But the court should have said, why is this in my court? Go talk to your king. Fuck off. Right?
Yes.
Your arguments predate the province, predate the reach of, there it is. That's the solution. They should have said, no, go talk to the Crown.
Well, honestly, I
right? Because as my jurisdiction as a judge is the province.
No, my argument is
the province has a birth date.
Within common law, the judge should say there is nothing exists before common law came in. Your question is moot.
Your question is
yes,
moot.
But the problem with common law, it's because something existed before common law. You go to Jean-Jacques Rousseau and the beginning of civilization with Enlightenment, or before that, it was the state of nature, and people were barbarian killing each other. And then you have civilization, you have private property, but you have an history. Mankind has a history. You said something about force majeure, and I'm sorry, the king or the crown, he's not king. He's not ruling over nothing. He should be advocating. He should be the justice, but he's delegating this justice to a court system, thinking that they will do a good job. They do nothing.
And in Canada, the Crown delegated by creating the Indian Act to silo the whole thing in one bag.
Exactly.
And leave it there. And now the rot has come through, and the people who have been taken disadvantage of, many of the Indigenous people, have now found a voice, these NGOs, that are educated and capable enough and have enough empathy and sympathy, because they put little Timmy on his wheelchair and push him out in front of the camera every now and then.
In front of a cat, yeah, exactly.
Right? And that's what they do. Right? So rightfully, I'll find out.
Yes.
Rightfully, the justice in British Columbia can say these treaties, these claims pre-existed the province of British Columbia and pre-existed the nation of Canada. Therefore, I have no jurisdiction over what came before me, and could have offloaded it onto the king directly, the Crown, and did not. Well, so now the question is, if they did not, why did they engage?
Well, that's a good question. Why did they engage? There's a motive behind. I have a question for you.
Question is why?
What about the Five Eyes? Because on the military or the geopolitical territory, what about the Five Eyes? How come this UNDRIP is touching only the British Crown and the colonies? The Five Eyes is supposed to be a military alliance.
Intelligence.
Is it intelligence? Is it? Are they preparing a major conflict with this?
Well, I said this a little bit ago. So I think the UN needing the assets, intellectual, corporate, right, legal, etc.
Yes.
Civilization assets, right, technological assets that the Five Eyes have provided the bulk of the planet for several hundred years now, and that just is. and they need that. And it will, should the UN decide, listen, we've got the rest of the planet, now we need to heal in. We got to get these SOBs under heal. So in order to do so, they have to apply pressure. And what do? They apply pressure from underneath. So how do you do that? I'm going to say a very, very horrible thing right now. Any peoples that conquer another peoples and do not eliminate them down to every man, woman, and child will suffer from their third and fourth generation later. Who will?
That's interesting. That's the
And that's
Hannibal doctrine. That's the Hannibal doctrine, and that was evoked by the foreign minister of Israel when they said October 7th, 2023, when they said when the Hamas supposedly attacked, they said we use the Hannibal doctrine, meaning that you even kill your own citizen. That's, yes, you're right, and it is
So-
maybe when you conquer a territory, kill everybody.
Everything. Another statement I've recently heard from a couple days ago, somebody who was actually early on supported the mass immigration into, this was an American, and he said, I have now changed my mind because they refuse to assimilate. That makes it an invasion, right? And so we've heard other people. Now in Canada, I'm going to look at that, but put it through the other end of that spectrum, right? We failed to effectively, morally, integrate the various native populations across Canada into one new nation. And it need not necessarily be a nation reflecting a European flavor, right? But we failed to assimilate and to create our own identity with the local indigenous peoples and ourselves. That did not happen. And as a result, external agents, primarily meaning the UN in this particular case, have been able to create a wedge of division using them.
They did not fail. They succeed. You can go back to the Club of Rome, 1972, and the multiculturalism of Pierre Trudeau. The intention was to destroy sovereignty of nation to implement something much greater. They succeed. They succeed. When you refer to immigration, and I said this many times, the idea of immigration, people immigrated to another country. Let's say 1910 to 1930, people were immigrating because they wanted to create, they were fleeing away from a zone of conflict. They were trying to seek a better future for their children, and they were arriving in another land, learning the language, and assimilating. As they were being assimilated, they still had roots, they still had memories, tradition, but they agreed that they were going somewhere. That's the melting pot in the United States. You arrive in 1945, 1950, they changed this from assimilation to integration. You arrive, you keep your culture, but you learn the language and you integrate in the model. Then you arrive with multiculturalism. You create ghettos. 1967. We're in this, and mass immigration has just amplified the problem. But the problem is here since 50, 60 years. We just didn't want to see it.
Mr. Doug Bebb says, for André, matters of principle cannot be resolved by violence unless the ideological enemy is completely exterminated. Doug, where are you? Put it in the comments. Which part of America are you in right now? Go ahead, André.
So let me visit this for a little bit longer. I think, and this is not a completed thought, it's just burbling around right now. Were Western Europeans, as they made their way across and civilized, right, developed Canada, let's just stick to Canada, had they effectively maintained healthy relationships with the local indigenous peoples, we would not have these problems, right? So certainly not to the degree that we do. And then once the Indian Act becomes a thing, we really have problems because we've intentionally created walls of segregation. Because now you're saying there's a law for us and a law for you. And UNDRIP reinforces that principle because it's what's the phrase? Explicit exclusion. Go figure, right? So explicit exclusion, which means this applies to everybody, but it applies to the indigenous more. right? So that's the everybody's equal except some people are more equal than others.
Well, that's
That exists.
Animal Farm of
That's
Orwell.
right. That's Animal Farm, but it's actually applied as a matter of actual law. So see, it's not so much that the UN is interested in improving the quality of life for the indigenous peoples,
Of
is that
course
they're
not.
interested in inserting principles on a legal footing that they will be able to use later to take your whatever you have left. Right.
I
So
do
this
agree with you, but they
right.
will not.
When you
They will not succeed.
that's it's see again. Okay, so they won't succeed, but in the meantime, millions of people will die, and that's my point.
Million.
Right.
Yeah, you're
I know.
right. I do
Right.
agree with you, but you have
Right.
you know when we look at this and we look at the karma of people,
Mm-hmm.
uh, this strategy is arriving to an end, because when you see a civilization that is collapsing, at the end they're becoming more restrictive, more violent. Justice is gone, corruption is everywhere. We can refer to the ancient Rome. At the end of the Roman Empire, it was collapsing everywhere because people were arriving in Rome and they were becoming Roman citizens, but it was the worst population ever, undermining the authority of the institution. What brought the collapse of the Roman Empire was not the expansion of the empire; it's the decay in moral value, and that's where we are now. When we will bring back moral value, natural law, dignity, we can start rebuilding. But we are not facing we're facing dark time, or a lot of instability.
And I think that what we're watching happen on this particular front is going to reach homeowners physically, not
Yes.
not morally or spiritually or relationally, not story time or right Sunday go to meeting, but real. That every time they come home, they wonder, is this the day there's a piece of paper on my
Tim,
door saying, here's $100,000, get off my land, right?
Tim,
Every day.
I I have a feeling, this is my fear, that it won't reach them physically. The government, the crown will step in and they'll do something, a sleight of hand, basically taking taxpayer money to pay off the aboriginals. So
Mm-hmm.
the people won't realize it and they'll go on believing that their misery is some other reason other than this. And the
Well,
government, they're so smart. They perfected the art of doing this over the
do,
years.
do you remember it was when just before Trudeau left, he said that they were willing to uh, work with the CMHC to develop some type of loan relief system where the government would buy part of your debt. And the I know, right? And the opposite. And so what's on the other end of that, right? You offering to pay me half of my mortgage? That's amazing. Like, so what's
Well,
the catch?
Well,
So what's
all
the
of it,
catch?
pay all of
So
it. Yeah.
right. So what's the catch? Oh, well, it's just the same as the Business Development Corporation, right? What does the BDC do? I have a business idea, but it's struggling because I need some money and maybe I need a mentor and some access. And BDC says, hey, we're happy to help you. We'll determine if it's a viable idea. And if it's a viable idea, we'll give you the means to do so, but we're going to take 5% of all your profit forever. And
you
that's what
have
the government, right? So what happens when the government now, on your behalf, Mr. Homeowner, it could have gone badly for you, but we, the government, as beneficent as we are, have actually paid the Aboriginals off on your behalf. So now we have to jack up your taxes, or now we're laying claim to 25% of your home, etc.
okay. That's what
Right?
that already exists. It's called reverse mortgage.
Yeah.
And it's called reverse mortgage. The boomers can have $1 million. I can go tomorrow. My mortgage is paid now. I'm practically free of debt in my house. I can go tomorrow and ask for $1 million loan. And then after that, in 20 years or 15 years, when I will die, the bank will repossess the house.
Yes.
So I deprive my children from an inheritance. What happens with the Rothschilds or the Lubavitch or those great family, the Orsini in Italy, who are centuries old and they have assets that it is not possible, then they're never deprived because they are the real owner. They are lending you the money through the cartel of banks, and they are making sure that their inheritance is never touched. The average man or the middle man or the middle class is always deprived of everything. When he dies, he can never leave nothing. The reverse mortgage is like this. And I was saying this in 2019. I said to one of my friends, "Oh, I'm okay. I don't have a mortgage." I said, "You don't understand. They will arrive one day. They will rise your municipal tax 100%. They're already doing it in Quebec. It's quite interesting. And they will say, well, you cannot pay the tax. It's okay. We repossess the house. You can stay in the house. You can stay and pay a rent." 60% of the population of Germany doesn't own a house. 60%. They want to reach 85% by 2030. That's pure communism. It's obvious. It's everywhere. UNDRIP is not. The problem with those people, they all recycle old ideas. Eugenic, Huxley was writing about this. They all recycle all old ideas, thinking that it will work. It's fascinating.
So what keeps coming into my brain is the West lost the aristocratic layer, right? We lost the aristocratic layer. The hereditary aristocratic layer has effectively been lost. The dukes and etc. They're pretty much gone. What rose in place of them was the children of the Hasmoneans, right? The merchant class moving up and buying their way into, and now we have this layer, this merchant layer that is effectively the techno aristocratic class, right? Or mercantile aristocratic class. They step in after, was it 2008? Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, right?
2008.
The housing collapse.
Lehman Brothers.
Right. And they were murdered into oblivion, right? Because they completely, right? And meanwhile, the American government bails out the AIG, which are in for like a gazillion trillion dollars. But this layer, after all these homes are foreclosed and all these homes are lost back to the banks, the bank says, we don't want them because they have to be managed. Do I look like a landlord to you? And then so BlackRock, and there's another one, I keep forgetting its name. So they step in and say, hey,
Vanguard.
Vanguard, we could get into, we're already doing mutual funds. Why don't we actually own the homes instead of just do trade with them? And so eventually you're getting, well, is it Main Street? Is a major home landlord, like the landlord out here in the valley and in Alberta. They own apartment buildings and blocks and apartment buildings and blocks and right. And so this is in a sense, while being mercantile, the mercantile layer, they are actually realistically, they are become lords. We call them landlords.
Yes,
lords.
Exactly.
So we are slipping back into a feudal state painlessly because there's no actual bloodletting.
Feudalism, and you mentioned something very important about real estate. What were they doing with the houses? They were destroying the houses because they needed the land, and they could pay less municipal tax on the land at the value of the house. They were destroying hundreds of thousands of houses. And what happened in Hawaii last year, 2 years ago?
Oh, the burning.
The burning.
The climate change related burning.
1 week after, you had big group who were arriving and asking them to sell them the land.
So
we know it.
We got something from I was going to say Donald Trump, Doug Bebb. What was worse, the corrupt Roman Senate or Caesar's self-serving dictatorship? And he asks more recently, historically, democracies are short-lived and soon replaced by a strong man who promises to clean up the mess. Caesar, Hitler, Donald Trump. I don't know if I put Hitler there, but
yes, because Hitler was a strong man. He promised to clean up the mess. Look at the Sudetenland, right? So the southern Germany and northern France, and then eastern Germany and western Czechoslovakia, and they also laid a hereditary claim to Poland and the Dutch. So as far as cultural identity was concerned, he was their strong man. So yes, I would include him in the list, right? The murder, the atrocities that he's responsible for committing, immaterial, because Caesar did worse. Caesar did worse. And Donald Trump is entirely capable of doing worse.
Caesar, if we talk about Rome, the ancient Rome, 45 before Christ, and it was already an empire, and because Rome was a republic, and then it started to decay in an empire. After that, you arrive at 2nd century, where the first Christian were persecuted. There was a structure of power that was fighting, and the role of the emperor was to be the judge of between judge of conflict. You have Adrian, who was an emperor, and Adrian in his time when he was an emperor, only one man was executed. I think it is 18 years of ruling as an emperor. Doug is asking, is it the Senate, the institution, or the emperor? The emperor is supposed to guarantee the authority of the empire, and the Senate is supposed to rule, or has delegate, and you can see a slow decay in the moral value of people. I think the citizens were also responsible. In Canada, we are responsible for what is happening because we were comfortable. We thought that we were living under a system that we call democracy, and we were not living under this system. But today we see that it is arriving, and we don't know how to react. We have to be, like Tim mentioned, I think we have to react rationally. That's what I try to do. Of course, I'm passionate tonight because I see that I want to change the political discourse. When I say we are at war, it means that we have to change our way of thinking. Yeah. We cannot accept anymore that we think that we live in democracy. Sorry for people, and thank you. There was somebody who posted a comment and said we should look at this stream more often. Canadian, if they would look at the stream, I advise Canadian, and I would advise to our viewer, bring back your friends and your families to watch our show, and tell them, fuck off CBC or the mainstream media. For once and for all, if you want to have good debate and discussion, go out of those organ of propaganda, because there are no media anymore. There are no media anymore. No public media has the right to call themselves a media. They're not there anymore. And I think we will arrive at a point where alternative media can take on the relay, but we need moral ground too. We're not exempt from moral value. If we are dishonest, people will not follow us.
Why can't you have like a non-controversial statement ever?
Yeah, you didn't have to put it up on screen. Jeez.
I can't. He's the former PPC candidate. Rules dictate I have to.
Can I show him some respect, eh?
Can I react to this? Because I will tell you something.
Alexander, no, women are not on the menu.
Get another beer.
Well, women, maybe. Okay, let's call them feminists, if you prefer.
No, I don't want to talk about that at all.
Women, they were considered minority or oppressed group.
See what you started, Peyman?
And they were used as weapon. There's a lot of people today, a lot of women today, they say, wait a second, what did feminism brought to me? What did it bring to me? What I go to work, I make $150K per year, but I pay 75% of $75,000 of taxes. I have to run. I need a career. I cannot have children. I have to pay a mortgage. Wow, welcome to the club. Man is doing this since the beginning of time. So the idea was not to undermine the value of women. The idea was to bring them into the labor force so they can rob them from their labor. And I think we saw this in 1920 with Alexandra Kolanta in Soviet Union. She was the first feminist. Abortion, and after that, Stalin in 1925, he had to change the law because men were divorcing. They didn't want to engage in women anymore. What do you see all the time?
You started a shitstorm.
You started it because you posted it.
Hey, my hands are clean. I don't get to pick and choose other people's opinions.
I don't get to pick and choose. That's right.
Well, I would just say change the word women for feminist.
Well, because the two are not the same.
And they're not the same at all. They're completely different.
See, stop it. Peyman, stop.
I can't. I just can't.
Peyman.
All right, here's a good one. Both men and women have their own respective roles. Women should stay out of politics. I'm sorry.
Peyman.
Well, no, you don't.
Peyman, when did you stop day drinking? Stop this. Get back to day drinking, please.
No, we can comment on this because we can go back to ancient Greek and we can talk about what is the natural role of a woman and the natural role of a man.
Over the 2-hour limit. So
well, women
we should give Andre 5 minutes to sew it up and then get out of here before Peyman gets us all in trouble.
Well, I will just say something about women. Okay, all women leave the room. Go, Sue. No problem. That's the best way to avoid a debate because the question is not to undermine the position of women intellectually. I will just make a small statement. It's very simple. For me, the 20th century, the philosopher of the greatest philosopher of the 20th century, for me personally, is Hannah Arendt. It's not very complicated. A woman, extraordinary intelligent. She brought so many insights in mankind. So you cannot arrive and say women will undermine society. It is not the point. But a group of women who are weaponized to make people hate each other. That's the idea.
Doug, man, Doug has no filter.
No, sorry, but we were talking about UNDRIP, and now we're talking about feminism.
Well, UNDRIP, I will just say this 30 seconds. UNDRIP, native people, indigenous people, they will be used as weapon.
Yes.
They will be used as weapon. And I advise them, do not paint yourself in the position of victim. Stand up next to us, all together.
If you want to go back to UNDRIP, UNDRIP defines this concept of Aboriginal nationhood. So we've talked about, Andre, you've talked about Yugoslavia, how NATO and they went in and they undermined constitutional law. The League of Nations, sure. The League of Nations, similarly, they created this concept, Woodrow Wilson, that jackal of the right for national self-determination. You're undermining constitutional law, the sovereignty of the nation. It's the same thing. They're saying they're creating this global concept of Aboriginal nationhood, knowing specifically it's going to undermine national sovereignty.
You're right. Bringing up the League of Nations, the ancestor of United Nations. This is very important. 1918, Balfour Declaration.
Sorry, Balfour. What'd you say?
Well,
First, my brain.
Well, clown world. My wife would agree with you.
I haven't prepared for this discussion. I prepared for UNDRIP. I'm not ready for this. All my comments about women and feminism are like completely unfiltered and unprepared. I'm not ready.
But Tim, first of all, you did a very great job preparing this show, and the idea that we are deprived of our individuality, and some people are used as weapon.
A lot.
Now he's starting to comment in French. It will be funny.
Do tell all.
All right, guys. Yeah, this. I guess it's time to end it. It's well past an hour and a half.
When payment is just click, click, click. Oh, this one's fun. Click, click. Oh, this will cause trouble. Click, click. Oh, this will definitely disturb.
Why not?
Hands.
Why not? Sometimes we have to get out out of the boundaries.
That's fine. It just my logical rationale.
While we were discussing, I had a comment on Telegram from my wife. Calm down.
Did you take her advice? I'm assuming no.
Of course he did. He lives in the same house.
And I'm sober. I'm sober. Wow.
And not day drinking. That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I'm feeling.
No,
thanks.
I think Tim, the subject of André is very important toward what we call sovereignty, freedom of speech, freedom of rights of people. Charles Fichtner brought many aspects when we had the discussion with him. It was extremely important that you prepared this show. So I'm very happy that you brought all this knowledge to us.
I would like us to bring back Charles one day and specifically talk about this ruling.
He's not answering my emails.
Yeah.
Do we have to pay him?
We might have to, but I would imagine he's charged several $1,000s.
Actually, you know what'd be funny is we offered to pay him with wooden nickels, because they were.
No, we can just
do legitimate currency for a while.
Yes, exactly, or leather nickels. Yes, or right? we can just do like the government, print money.
Print money. Yeah, but when I print money, they offer me the bottom bunk, and I'm not sleeping in the same room as those two fuckers. Yeah. So, bottom line is even more proof that family is all you have. And now, if your physical home becomes your bastion, so be it. Yeah.
All right. I think we should end it. There's a lot of cool comments, but we'll be here for another hour. So
that's totally
no. I will not swear in French. Clown world. I will not cuss in French. You will not. You know, clown world. My wife knows French. She knows Carlis, the Chris, the Tabarnak, the City. When I do reconstruction or something like that, she knows. Those are the first words that she learned.
Well, a big thank you to the audience. I guess it was a good episode to bring in the new year. I don't know, our sympathies to the Venezuelan people, or maybe congratulations, depending on which side they voted for. And,
I just realized that tabernacle is Canada spelled backwards.
Tabernacle?
Is it? No.
All right. On that note, we'll see everybody next week. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Have a good Happy New Year.